Hello and good day to everyone. That is who's tuning in here at the Sphere Rocket Podcast Network. Once again, I'm going to be the host for today's episode. My name is Dwayne, and right now, as I mentioned, a very special that we got today, made extra special by a very special guest. Her name is Kim Erline, and she is the CEO of Purveyors of Leisure, a super cool short-term rental company in California. She's all about creating amazing spaces for big groups inspired by her own epic family trips. Kim's hands-on with everything, picking properties, designing interiors, and managing renovations. She's got 5 stunning estates in Palm Springs and Borrego Springs, and she just launched her first boutique hotel, The Fainting Couch, in Northern California's wine country. And I forgot to mention, she's also a co-author of Amazon bestseller Hospitable Host Volume 1. So without further ado, let's dive into Kim's journey and her incredible work in hospitality. Kim, how are you doing today? And welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Dwayne. Thanks for having me.
Nice to have
I'm doing well. Yes.
Oh, good. And you're pretty much the first person that I've interviewed here with this kind of business setup. So I guess to start off, how did you get started in this?
Many things accidentally. I was in a position where I was interested in shifting gears. I'd come from a background in event production and music festivals. And I was just kind of in a place where I was saying yes to most things that I was being asked to try. And a good friend of mine who was a real estate investor was looking in the Palm Springs area in California, at Southern California. And I was living not too far in San Diego, and just kind of asked me to take a look at some houses with him. And before you knew it, he purchased one and I did the design, and then he purchased the second. And at the time, we had them under a vacation rental property management company. And what we found, and that's now 9 years ago, and what we found is that they were not moving with the times. They weren't putting it on Airbnb or Vrbo. And we asked, hey, maybe we could, work a hybrid deal where we handle the listings. And if we get a booking, we obviously will reap the benefits. And we saw very quickly the stark contrast of how many more bookings we were getting. I think also, let's face it, it was hours. And so we were much more hungry and a lot more hands-on. And I would say that was the beginning of Purveyors of Leisure. And we ramped up to about 14 properties at one point, all doing, identifying the property and redesigning renovations, because our niche is large group travel, which at the time, most people didn't want anything to do with that because of what you would think. It's potentially a headache. Obviously, people concerned about wear and tear on homes. But we were choosing large properties, 1 to 2 acres, and really started working on our systems to prevent any issues, say for handling neighbors and any kind of sound issues. So that began our journey with actually Sphere Rocket not too far after.
See, so it's kind of like Airbnb, but for larger groups of people. I guess that's not really a niche market, because I know a lot of people using Airbnb for that reason, but not a lot of people using homeowners. And Airbnb wanted a group of people like going into their homes. Right. And
well, it came from the quite frankly, my name of the company, Purveyors of Leisure, came from a really kind of a funny story. My husband and my main investor, a good friend who asked me to take a look at the houses, they were the gentlemen of leisure. And when I came along, I obviously am not a gentleman. And it kind of morphed into, obviously, that we were the Purveyors of Leisure. So that transitioned because we had been traveling as a friend group with 16, 20 people at times, and found it an economical way to travel, and also a lot of fun, right? Where our memories made around a dinner table, around a barbecue, around a pool. And that really left a mark about how we wanted to travel. And I used to travel like that too as a family. Years and years ago when I was 5, my family would rent out an entire motel, and it was ours. And all of the cousins, and it wasn't fancy. It was just the concept of being all together and having that privacy.
Like a reunion of some sorts, and it's good to have that. Families making sure that everyone's updated with everyone's life and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And I guess people wouldn't know what purveyor means. Like me, I kind of heard this word before, and I just searched it up. a person who sells or deals in particular goods, for example, a purveyor of large luxury vehicles, I guess. That's just
Yeah, it's a provider. It's an English word. Shopkeepers, we're purveyors. We're providing leisure, right?
it
So
sounds
what are we? We're
really
finding.
sounds good. It sounds really fancy and beautiful, and yeah.
Well,
So are the,
I try not to be. It's not trying to be too snooty. It's fun. Our tagline is "We take leisure seriously, so you don't have to."
I like the
It's
irony.
a
Yeah,
combination of a little elegance with a little bit of, we're gonna have fun.
yes. And I'm curious now, so since this is, Airbnb has this kind of business model. So in terms of building up this business, I mean, you've seen the problems, what you had before in your experiences. So when you're first getting started, how were you able to expand your network, your clientele? I guess the very first steps are the hardest in starting a business like this.
Initially, well, to roll back a bit, because the homes are 6 bedrooms and now we have an 11 bedroom, we're hosting upwards of 16, 20, 26 people at times. And so part of the business model we baked in was that you would be hosted. In other words, a lot of people moved to digital codes, which of course we have, and no hosting, contactless, I guess is the best way to put it. And we actually decided that was doing a disservice to the group, because if you think about it, if you came to me, Dwayne, and said, I'm going to bring my entire family, I chose this house, and I hope they all like it, right? You have to please 20 people. We found what worked was having a person that was a liaison to the property and to the guest. And so we have hosts meet every guest at our properties. And we've been doing that from the beginning. And it really helps. One, I think it's a respect issue. I think it calms down anyone that's, of course, it's a house. Things happen, right? The pool heater doesn't work one day, or there's an issue with Wi-Fi or whatever. And the fact that they are able to contact our host via our virtual assistant team, which we'll get into, that really, it gives the people a sense of security and that they've made the right decision. And I think that we learned that really early on, that the best way to work with people psychologically, that we're making these choices, these large, grand choices with their families, not only where to spend the money, but spend their time, which is invaluable. It really helped them to feel supported, and we were giving a hotel experience to guests in essence.
A touch of humanity is really important. That you're not just, as you mentioned earlier, it's contactless. I mean, it's good, it's convenient, it's fast, but you're having this for a vacation, so you wanted to have that feeling of leisure, as you mentioned, like hospitality, right. And that hotel kind of experience definitely helps out. And you mentioned having people to welcome them, but isn't that going to cost a lot of manpower, especially if you're handling several properties, and let's say people would just rent it for like 2-3 days and then another one?
Yeah.
How's the model to that?
It was me for a very long time and my partner and a phone attached to our hand. We did have a wonderful housekeeping crews. We found that was the heart line to the homes, because they have to obviously turn these houses. There's 20 something beds. It's an endeavor. It's a small hotel. And we found and we have some lovely, wonderful housekeeping crews that are our friends and family now. But the initial start, we did hire hosts that were working on, kind of per turn basis. We didn't hire them full time. But the biggest obstacle I faced, or challenge I should say, was my time and how to get the information so the guest is coming in through one channel, we're receiving it, we have to then give it to the host. The host has to then maybe hire vendors to handle the maintenance or whatever the issue is that they're trying to solve. And we just found that I was so integral in that piece, and it was just unsustainable. I couldn't continue designing houses and managing projects, and
I can't imagine how you're able to split yourself and handling different things, two really different things at once.
Very different. And that truly was when we started brainstorming around virtual assistants and how we could use technology. I've been a very early adopter to a number of apps that have helped move this business forward. And the combination of having Sphere Rocket's team very early on, I think my first hire, I hired 2 people at 3.5 years ago, and I've never looked back. and I will tell you, my first hire, her name is Joy, and I tell her every week, she is my joy. She literally is she is so dear to me and so integral in this operation. I shout from the mountaintops about
she is. That's what I'm
Sphere
saying.
Rocket because of that. And subsequently, I have other beautiful people working for me now. We have had a few transitions a couple of times, where someone had to move. We've replaced people seamlessly. And because a combination of my interest in technology, their readiness, I think that's a really key factor when people ask me, how'd you go with Sphere Rocket? Well, first off, you had wonderful reviews early on in this market. I know that you're primarily a realtors, it was more coming from the real estate sector. However, a lot of things that I needed that mattered for the real estate sector mattered for my business. And so it didn't seem that far off, but it was the professionalism. It was the readiness of a candidate, no matter whether it was a good fit for me or not, specifically what I was looking for. Every candidate interviewed well. Every candidate ready, I guess is really the best way to put it, which quite frankly, that's a huge time saver for people running a business.
Yes. I have I have had an interview with another person. He was personally, interviewing directly to person. He interviewed 20, 30 people. And, he referred to Sphere Rocket, and Sphere Rocket just gave him 5 people. And those people are better than the best that he found from before, because, it's basically just cherry picking, doing all the hard work for you. And, in case things doesn't work out, Sphere Rocket is flexible. They're able to, replace it with a better person. And we also have some, coaching services for not only VAs, but also for business owners, because a lot of business owners are quite new to having VAs, virtual assistants, and they don't know to guide and manage them. And in your case, how were you able to, firstly start with Joy? I'm sure initially she's not the perfect candidate. You needed to mold her to, everything within your business.
I think she had hotel experience, which really helped me a lot, actually, from the point of view of things that I wasn't seeing necessarily. But like I had mentioned, technology really was my friend here. And what I found, the best way first was to have them watch me. And so I use Slack, which is a great internal communication way to keep information separate and obviously be able to have all types of discussions and set up projects and so on and so forth. And so Slack was kind of my coaching tool. And I would just have them basically observe how I was answering guests. I mean, obviously a lot of this too, by the time, to roll back a minute, need from my end, not only was it that I was obviously a bit overwhelmed with just the ramping up of the business, and then just the sheer nature of how many people we were talking to regularly. Because even though it's through the platforms, there's a lot of questions with a 10-bedroom house. How far is the bathroom? How far, for Uncle Joe, he has the hip problem. And, is there going to be a rice cooker? I mean, it just doesn't end, right? So I found that I also joined a mentorship group, and they provided and taught us about using a couple of different tools. One primarily being a playbook where you keep all of your templates, all your SOPs, that you have something that they can reference. And I tell this to people, and I see this a lot I'm in a lot of forums and facilitating groups, and I see people say, "Oh, my virtual assistant, it didn't work out. They just couldn't adapt." And it typically, if you drill down a little bit, it's where did you have systems? Did you have a playbook? Did you let them observe how you handle the communication? And it is very clear that that's a big piece of it. You have to have systems. You can't expect people to jump into your brain and be you. Although
Communication
that's
is a big part,
happening,
yeah.
although soon we'll all have our own chatbots, and so that may very well be available. But as I was saying, I think the combination of having them observe, watching, and then also using other technology where once we made the introduction of the host to the guest, and that typically happens like 2 days before check-in, just to kind of say, hey, when are you going to be arriving? We'll be here, that kind of thing. Very pleasant welcome. The whole team would see the communication. So I would see everybody's communication. So a combination of I were observing me, that's how I trained them. They had SOPs. They could go, when it came to FAQs, right? Things like how many bathrooms and their showers or tubs, that information they had available to them. It was in a reference, section. So that was helpful to move it along. And I suggest before anyone hires a virtual assistant to really understand what they want this person to do. What challenges are they going to solve for them? How are they going to bring time back for them? And how are you going to get that information over to them? The delivery system is key. And then I would coach them. I would coach them on Slack without embarrassing them in front of other people. So it was an excellent.
Yeah.
It was a good combination of tools because it was in the moment training. I think that's another piece that I think owners want to just be like, yes, I've been saved. Here's my virtual assistant. Now they can have all this. And quite frankly, that's fair. You wouldn't do that to a person you hired in a brick and mortar business. You wouldn't say, okay, here's the key to the operation. Good luck.
You need to slowly build them up, and of course, test them. Basically, with coaching, you get to ask them questions, make sure that your minds are both in the right place. So pretty much
Absolutely.
the same. So management is definitely the key, and not just get the right person and just do this, and then after the end of the day tell, did you do this? You need to especially at the start, not really micromanagement, but at least touch base as much as you can until you're confident.
I think that's a really good a key point, because I think at first it can come across as micromanagement, but if you've managed any people and you know how to get results, you're not going to manage them. You're going to have them come to the answer. You'll find a way to ask the question. You'll say, have you considered looking at this area to find that answer? Or as a reminder, here's a place you could look, that kind of thing. So it's gentle, not, nudging and coaching. But again, you have to have your systems in place. This person is not it's not a miracle worker. It's not going to be like, we know everything right away. But as I said, I think having the readiness, really, Sphere Rockets is really choosing, the finest candidates. Everyone has been qualified. It's just a matter of, maybe
the best
fit,
that you've already
schedule, ability, all those kind of things. So, yeah.
And for now, how long have you been having virtual assistants? Like 3 or 2 years?
3 plus years. Yeah, I think it was 3 in March. Yeah, 3 in 3 months.
And I would like to ask then, so with your 2-3 plus years of having a virtual assistant, in terms of percentage, how much did it free up your personal time since getting a virtual assistant?
It's not. I can't even put a number on it. The difference almost right away from the point of view of not having to keep that phone by my side. You have to think about it when you are fielding all of these questions. See, a lot of people in my industry that have typically a 3 or 4 or 5 bedroom or 1 bedroom condo, they're instant booking, right? Like they're not talking to anyone. There may be a question, do you mind if I come in early? Will there be towels for the pool? Things like that. We do not allow anyone to instant book. So the level of, I was tethered to my phone because I had to answer. I was between John and myself, we were the only 2 answering all of these calls in essence.
Those
or I should say text. So right away, my time, again, a little orientation period. I'd say no longer though than, it took like Joy 2 weeks and she was off and running. And she was telling me things like that the to increase.
2 weeks. Wow. She's really fast.
I'm
Yeah.
she's my joy. I'm telling you. And quite frankly, I mean, what a wonderful first. I mean, I
Uh,
feel like she was brought to me. However, it was what a wonderful first impression of the experience, because I imagine if you had, and quite frankly, the second person,
Mhm.
and to put this in more perspective, we had just come out of COVID here, I'm sure there as well. Hotels were shut down for a long period.
Yeah.
People were chomping at the bit to be together. I mean, the level of social isolation was so high,
Yeah.
and here we are providing a space
Hmm.
for grandma and grandpa to come and see the grandkids, and friends to reunite after a long period of obviously not seeing one another. So it was not only was it that we had the most amount of homes at this point in time, we also had the most amount of people interested in coming because they had not been
I
able
can
to be
imagine how
together.
many questions
So
and inquiries.
And so, I mean, it was really like a point of no return. I either had to solve this problem, otherwise it was physically impossible to keep, the level of service. I wanted to provide 5-star service, and so that was starting to crack. Right, like you can't possibly and be that available and understand that you're going to be okay doing all that. And the second person that I hired, it was interesting. So he had a background in hospitality, but because it was one of those situations where his previous company wooed him back, right? And it was in person. But that, again, it was still a wonderful transition. It wasn't, every time there's been a transition, like I said, people either moved on, or I have found a niche I needed that suited me, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. So my daytime US for me, I have 2 women who are handling a majority of, obviously, guest interaction and handling all the details to keep the business running, including bookkeeping, which Joy has learned. Like she had not been trained in that, but my business consultant trains her, and so now she handles that piece, which takes a whole department off of my plate. She's really she's handling me first of all. It's a whole nother thing, and then numbers of departments within the business, and she truly has become the manager of the virtual team. And then the night group, there's 2 women who handle our marketing, and we found that was a good combination, a good use of time, because we still needed somebody manning, in essence, the phones and answering questions, and people book throughout the night, in essence. I mean, it tapers off, obviously, late night here. But as far as evening, that's a big time for people. You have to work to book vacations. And so we still trained in all of those aspects, but they have more of a marketing background. And they also are my security. They're my security team, because we use decibel readers. It's a company by the name of Minutes. And it helps keep sure there's no huge party happening at these houses, and to make sure people are following the noise ordinance. And you can kind of tell when a group is ramping up. And so all this information is gently given to the guest ahead of time, and a reminder every night.
They got too much fun. Yeah.
We've seen it all, and these measures are part of keeping everything under control. Primarily, we don't want to upset neighbors. It's not our intention. So we try to be 5-star providers of our service, customer service, 5-star properties, 5-star neighbors as well.
And you know what? I guess a misconception of a lot of people who's heard of VA, they only think VA is answering emails, maybe a bit of fixing their database, accounting, but they can go beyond that. They can have their own niches, and giving the 5-star kind of service that someone like you yourself, the business owner, is able to provide. They're able to mirror it. It's just a matter of like the right guidance and the right person in order to make that kind of success, and like your joy.
Yeah, and it's fun watching.
Mhm.
I mean, I am a strong believer that if you allow people to be autonomous, they will grow. They will naturally move their needle, right? Like, it's like, we want to evolve. I want to be innovative. I want to come up with good ideas. And that's not true. It's what I believe, but it's not true of everybody. And I've had to learn that myself throughout the course of numerous hires and whatnot. What I find is this relationship with a virtual team, I have to give them autonomy, right? Like, they're nowhere near me. And so it's a trust and a respect that builds up. And now at this point, I'll say to the marketing team, for instance, we have launched the new hotel, the Fainting Couch. And that's my first foray into boutique hotels. And this is an opportunity, right? For them to start from scratch, a launch, and to bring something to market that didn't exist before, which a lot of people don't get the opportunity to do that, even in some of the biggest marketing agencies.
And they're challenging having a new kind of industry.
And they are loving it. They feel the difference, in how they are coming to me with ideas, showing me the analysis. Like, it is a little hard to jump into marketing a brand that has already been in place.
Established.
That's what I've heard. I mean, I've asked that question with other people, and it seems to be a hard baton necessarily. I think everyone has styles. There's not only artistic style, right? Like creative style, as far as everything from a graphic to strategy. And it's been really exciting to have the opportunity to take on, I've been working on this hotel for almost 2 years, and to have the time, especially in the last 6 months. I mean, I have very little time for purveyors of leisure these last 6 months, and I have not had to worry about anything. I mean,
that's the kind of leisure.
I check
you're
in.
having the leisure.
Now I'm right. Well, while I was providing other, working on a 20 unit hotel and renovating it from everything from the bathroom floors, the ceilings, the crown molding, and one remaining piece of material from the previous hotel. So, yeah.
But yeah, if without those, virtual assistants, I doubt that you'll be able to
there's no way.
properly manage them all. Yeah, it's good to have that kind of transition. And, Sphere Rocket is also happy to be able to provide you the right kind of candidate as a virtual assistant. Talking more about your business, can you share us more about, your listings or anything, the services you provide in general, if we have been able to cover it, and the best way to reach you?
Yes. Purveyors of leisure, we're primarily located in Southern California in the Greater Palm Springs area. We currently manage 5 estate properties. They range in bedroom count from 6 to 11 bedrooms. We host regularly 16, 20, 26 people. And we offer numbers of concierge services. As I said, we'd really like people to feel like they have their own private resort. And we bring in chefs. My husband's actually one of the chefs for the main estate's top-notch chef. And the yoga teachers come, massage therapists. We provide literally what you would expect at a hotel. And our newest and greatest, hopefully, hotel is going to be in Northern California, above Napa in the wine region of Cobb Mountain. And nestled in the forest is a 20-unit hotel with a pool. And our goal with that is to take the knowledge that we've experienced, the experience we've had with hosting large groups, and bring it to that. Actually, you can rent your own hotel. Very similar to what my parents did.
Like the entire hotel we rented.
Yes. And the goal with that is family reunions, micro weddings, corporate retreats, leadership retreats, wellness retreats. We are going to be building, we haven't finished this phase yet, but we'll be building a big yoga deck and with a shade structure on top. And so that'll be really wonderful for wellness retreats, which is very popular here in the States. So that's the Fainting Couch, and that's located in Cobb Mountain. And we also have a beautiful campground recreation area, 130 acres near Yosemite, called Camp Silver Spur. And that's a little bit more rustic, but that's another great place where you can bring that really dialed in for weddings of 200-300 people. It can handle 400 people staying overnight. We have a 1,000-person event center. And so that's also a new project that we've been managing for the last, not quite a year yet, about 6-7 months. And so that's another great opportunity to come together and spend quality time with one another. And I think that's the key, is having the experience. People are really interested in playing and having fun and connecting in ways that a hotel experience cannot offer you. And it's nothing against hotels. I love hotel and I love room service and I love the robes and all of that. But the reality is you're not alone. You're not a private feeling. And I think we're craving togetherness without necessarily being around a lot of other groups.
Imagine
that's our niche. We bring people together. I've always brought people together. It's my favorite thing to do. I think it's just innate in me to host people, and I love it. And I think we'll continue to do it.
Yes, I guess that's also an exciting part, as part of their memories. Like they're going to telling, like your experience before, we rented an entire motel before, we rented an entire hotel before. And, people would think that's going to be a crazy amount of money if it's like an actual hotel, but you're able to provide it at a more affordable rate, given that that is specifically why you had that hotel in place. And that being said,
it's the same as the estates. Honestly, when you look at the price comparison, it's similar to the pricing for the estates, and everyone has their own bedroom, which, not bedroom, but like full room, bathroom, like a hotel. So I think people will find that favorable.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would be interested about this. So what's the best way to contact and get this kind of services and renting out a hotel and stuff?
Yeah, so best place probably to reach me, Kim Herline, is at Linktree, and my Linktree and then / Purveyors of Leisure, a name that I didn't realize I'd have to spell every day of my life. And also the new hotel is the Fainting Couch. You can find us at faintingcouch.com, and Camp Silver Spur. Those are the 3 places you can find us.
Yeah. We'll be sure to put that in the description below, so you don't need to spell it word by word. So just in case,
thank you.
You can easily click the link to make it a lot more easier. And,
I appreciate that.
And Kim, before we conclude this podcast, maybe you wanted to give a shout out to anyone, your virtual assistants, and you wanted to promote anything else other than what you've mentioned?
Yeah, just love for my team, Joy, Chris, and AJ, and Kimberly. And I believe that there is no way I could have continued to escalate my business, take on these new projects, and expand my interests, my creativity, if it were not for Sphere Rocket's team.
We thank you as well, and we appreciate your kind words to us. And we wanted to do our best for everyone and giving virtual assistance to the right people, and we appreciate once again for that. And that is our episode for today here at the Sphere Rocket Podcast Network. Hopefully you've learned a thing or two. Just look into the description box for the websites in case you're curious or interested in prevailing the Purveyors of Leisure services with Kim Herline. So I guess that is it for today again, and we'll hope to see you again in the next episode at the Sphere Rocket Podcast Network. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Dwayne.
Worried about missing out on family time because of work? Sphere Rocket VA can help. With a 45-day free trial, see for yourself how a virtual assistant can make a difference. Visit www.sphererocketva.com today and start making changes for you and your business.